Heavyweight strikers set to pair up UFC 282. We have Chris Daukaus looking to pick up the pieces for the Daukaus brothers after his brother Kyle's lost to Erik Anders last weekend at UFC Orlando. And he's taking on a guy in Jairzinho Bigi Boy Rozenstruik, who's on a 2-fight losing streak. And Matt, I don't know why Panini decided, you don't know where I'm going with this one, to release a bunch of really cool cards. I like their immaculate cards, and I picked up a slick eBay find of a Rozenstruik. It's got like a piece of his trunks. Wow. It's got an autograph. They went with Jair Rozenstruik. Who the hell's calling him Jair Rozenstruik? Not a single person. It's Jairzinho. But regardless of that, Matt, when I look at this matchup, both guys on 2-fight losing streaks. And for Chris Daukaus, he was on this meteoric rise coming into the UFC. 4 straight knockout losses, kind of like Rozenstruik had as well. And for Rozenstruik, the fourth of the 4, that was a big-time main event against Alistair Overeem where he was losing pillar to post until the last dying seconds of the fight. But for Daukaus, it was just quick knockout, beat Shamil Durkimov, and then they give him a main event against Derek Lewis about this time last year. And just every time he went to enter, he'd get countered, and then Lewis started to move forward, dropped him, finished him. Then they gave Daukaus a main event in Columbus against Curtis Blaydes, and the whole time, the commentary was Curtis Blaydes got to wrestle. He's got to threaten with his wrestling, and Curtis Blaydes is a striker now. I don't know if you know that, but Blaydes looked really good with his boxing, and every time he hit Daukaus, same thing. He'd back off, and then Blaydes was able to implement his game plan, ending up finishing him. So Daukaus had quite a bit of time off, getting ready for Bigi Boy. Bigi Boy's last 2 fights, loses to Curtis Blaydes by decision. Not much of a fun fight in a 3-rounder. And his last time out, he took on Alexander Volkov, and some may say it was an early stoppage, but he did kind of land down, hold up, and he got hit. Herb Dean ended the fight. No sweat. But out of that fight against Volkov, we didn't really get to see much out of Rozenstruik either. So both guys in a prove-it-to-me fight that they really need coming up before the main card at 282.
Jairzinho's power and his volume is like that song, you know? It's like rain on your wedding day. Because it's pretty...
I'm sorry, just hold on. If Alanis Morissette walks out and sings like you just did, they're pulling the plug off the mic.
It's a free ride.
They're pulling the plug off the microphone, and they're going to say, I'm sorry, Miss Morissette, we have to refund those tickets.
Here's the thing, though. It's just pretty ironic how powerful the guy is, but he refuses to throw strikes whatsoever. Because that's the thing about Rozenstruik. He is such a dangerous fighter when he is in forward motion, throwing combinations. And he is a heavyweight who will throw in combination. He's not a single strike striker, and I know a lot of his highlights are from the single strike, but they're primarily set up from the combination. Go back to his fight against Junior Albini. I know people like to make fun of Junior Albini because he looked like he wore a diaper in the UFC, but Jairzinho finished him from a 1-2 high kick, and that's not something we often see in the heavyweight division. So I do really like Rozenstruik when he is moving forward and throwing with power, but it never happens. Ever. Like, you really have to pressure Jairzinho Rozenstruik to bring the fight out of him. And I gotta be honest, I thought he fought a pretty good fight against Curtis Blaydes. I know he lost, but he was able to land a couple good shots. He landed a big flying knee at one point that I thought would have wobbled Curtis Blaydes.
Didn't get taken down or held down.
Exactly. The defense looked good, but you could just tell how tentative he was to throw his own strikes. And that's what I worry about in this matchup. If Jairzinho walks forward and throws punches, he's way more powerful than Chris Daukaus. He's way bigger than Chris Daukaus, too. And I know you might not think that, but Jairzinho's a pretty big heavyweight for the size of him.
Big this way, he is large en français, but when you look at Rozenstruik, he's listed as 6'2" by the UFC. I don't believe he's 6'2".
They're lying.
So you're going to have a height advantage out of Chris Daukaus. But the weird thing, this fight was originally booked on the October 1st card, Darren versus Jan. They rescheduled it to this one, but if you do look at it for both guys, the highs have been high for both of them. But for Daukaus, it's a lot of walking forward, throwing his own combinations, and for Daukaus, it's a lot of boxing. If you look at it in 6 UFC fights for Chris Daukaus, he's thrown 9 leg kicks. He's not a kicker. And yeah, he's fought some wrestlers, but he's not a kicker. He really does get it done. And he's one of those guys that has really long arms, and he has good extension and good pop at the end of his shots. Good zip, as I like to say in some of these videos. But if you look at it for Daukaus, again, those last 2 fights, when he faced a little bit of the resistance, he'd back off, and then he'd wait. And for Daukaus and Rozenstruik, they both do the exact same thing. They throw a lot of traps and a lot of feints out there, and until there's a finish, if there's a finish in this fight, the fans at T-Mobile are going to boo the F out of this.
I do think Chris Daukaus is a faster starter, though. I think if there's a finish in the first round, it's probably because Chris Daukaus just marches forward and knocks out Rozenstruik. I really could see him just walking forward, jabbing twice, hitting him with a straight right, and that's kind of it for Rozenstruik. But on the flip side, if Rozenstruik is able to get his timing at all and implement his kicks, too, because like you had mentioned, Daukaus is a very boxing-heavy MMA fighter. He will use his grappling a little bit. He does have defensive grappling, of course. I don't expect grappling to be a big factor in this matchup, though. If Curtis Blaydes couldn't take down Jairzinho Rozenstruik, I think Chris Daukaus is going to struggle with that. And Jairzinho's not much of a wrestler himself. But if Jairzinho is able to get his kicking game going at all, I think that's going to be really difficult for Chris Daukaus to deal with. But again, this fight is just whoever starts earlier is probably going to get the win, because I don't think either guy can stand up to each other's power. But what I will say is, I think Rozenstruik is the faster fighter with his feet. He's pretty good at closing the distance when he decides to. And again, it is a big decision for him to make that commitment and try to close the distance. But like we saw in the Overeem fight, he was able to land that left hook from pretty far away and use his feet to close the distance. And if he's able to do something like that against Chris Daukaus, I would not be surprised whatsoever.
And we saw Derek Lewis when he started to have success. It was okay. He's not inviting the fight from Daukaus and trying to counter. He blitzed forward, and then out of the blitz, Daukaus started to clinch up, and that's really where it was the beginning of the end. Same thing, Curtis Blaydes started to put the pressure on, and Daukaus, when he's backing up, doesn't have as much success as when he's moving forward, and very few fighters do. But for Rozenstruik, to me, you can get it done both ways. So I look at the odds here. Rozenstruik open -160, -180 right now. Daukaus +140, +145, 150. We have a look at the Topology votes. Surprise to us as they are to you. I'm going to assume that Bigi Boy is favored by the fans as well. I'm going to say over under 75% Bigi Boy.
I think it'll be under that, but it'll be the favorite.
Panini's own Rozenstruik.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's over 833 total votes, 79% Rozenstruik, 89% by knockout. For the 21%, maybe they confused Daukaus's, 67% by knockout. I think Bigi Boy gets the win in this one, but again, if he's tentative, if his hands are down, Daukaus is the type of heavyweight that's really snappy, and when he blitzes on his own, look at what he was able to do to Abdurakhimov in that exchange. So Daukaus has been able to do it. The other win that I really like out of Daukaus that he has on his record, the Alexei Oleinik one where he just, again, walked him down. He finished Nascimento, which doesn't happen all that often. Daukaus can definitely get it done, and if you pick him, I'm not going to slag you one bit. It's just, to me, and I didn't really mention it, I like the kicks out of Rozenstruik as kind of an added X factor in this fight.
I agree 100%. I like Jairzinho because I think he is the more versatile striker. Like you had mentioned, he can move forward, move backwards. He does use his kicks. If it is a fight that's primarily fought in boxing range, though, Chris Daukaus can have a lot of success. His straight shots are probably going to land more often, but I think Jairzinho can eat more shots from Chris Daukaus than Chris Daukaus can eat from Bigi Boy, so I agree. I like Jairzinho in this.
If you have one of the other 25 relic cards of Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Jair Rozenstruik, he's got one of the smallest, weirdest little squiggles of an autograph I've ever seen. Let us know down below in the comments section. A big-time fight coming up this weekend. Matt, Bryce Mitchell's taking on Ilia Topuria. I can't wait for it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say. Let's get into it.